You read about it too?
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, but I don't know.
So you don't trust anything either, and you work for the New York Times.
Well...
All right, folks, buckle up. You won't believe what just unfolded on live TV. Bill Maher, the unapologetically blunt host we all know, put Democratic Senator Adam Schiff right on the hot seat during his show, Real Time with Bill Maher. It's not every day we witness such a heated clash of opinions in real time. This wasn't your usual political banter. It quickly escalated into a fiery exchange that had viewers glued to their screens. Imagine being in the audience, feeling the tension rise. Maher dove straight into today's most controversial political topics. Biden's preemptive pardons, California's mass exodus, you name it.
All right, here we are with the Democratic Senator from California, Adam Schiff, and the New York Times opinion columnist, Bret Stephens. Okay. Here are the questions from the people. Senator Schiff, given the ongoing political tensions and Trump's actions toward his critics, do you think President Biden's preemptive pardons turned out to be more important than initially expected? Let's first tell people what that means, preemptive pardons. That was pretty unprecedented, right? Before he left office, Joe Biden pardoned you and a number of people who he thought Trump would go after.
No, I take the opposite view. I don't think he should have given the pardons at all.
Really?
No, I don't think he should have, and I was vocal about that at the time.
Can you refuse a pardon?
That's less clear because in the case of the January 6th committee, he pardoned essentially the whole committee.
I see.
But I didn't like it both because we were enormously proud of our work on the January 6th committee, but more than that, establishing a precedent that on the way out the door, you're going to pardon any number of people, gave him even greater latitude on his way out of the door to pardon everyone around him. Chief Justice Roberts, in that immunity decision, I think, which will go down in infamy, already gave this president permission to be lawless. But the abuse of the pardon power essentially gives him an opportunity to tell everyone around him, then when I'm on the way out the door...
Maher pressed Schiff hard on these issues, almost like holding up a magnifying glass to the flaws in progressive policies, especially those in California. Schiff attempted to defend his stance, but Maher wasn't letting anything slide. The conversation hit hard, backed by the signature sharp-edged humor Maher is known for. This wasn't just a discussion, it was an intellectual brawl that made viewers rethink everything. Just a second, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you appreciate unfiltered takes that shake things up. Go ahead, I'll wait. Done? Awesome. Welcome aboard. Now, let's dive back into it. The intensity only grew as Maher steered the conversation into deeper waters, challenging both Schiff and guest Bret Stephens. It was a clash of ideologies, intellects, and realities. Maher came in with hard-hitting questions, demanding honest answers from both men on the state of progressive governance and how it's playing out in the real world, particularly in California.
Part of that question is that California, I'm sorry to say this, a beautiful state, has become Exhibit A in progressive misgovernance. And if you're going to tax industries straight out of the country, if you're going to continue to lose, 100,000, 200,000 people every year who have to leave here because it's unaffordable, because housing is unaffordable, you're going to create an example of what Americans don't want from the left. So Democrats, and my colleague Ezra Klein is doing this, are taking a good hard look at California and saying, we're not that. We need to be a party that's from some other model.
Well, I don't disagree that we've got to do a lot to improve governance in California, but I don't agree with the diagnosis of why the film industry is leaving. They're leaving because they're getting richer incentives in other states and other countries, and we haven't kept pace with that. So if you want to film in the United Kingdom, you're going to get a tremendous tax break, and our motion picture industry has left the country. If you want to film in New York or Georgia, there are generous tax incentives. If we want to keep the industry here, we're going to have to compete with tax incentives. California has started to do that. But on a federal level, I think the United States is also going to have to offer incentives to keep this industry here and to compete around the world. It didn't used to be necessary, but they're successfully wooing away this prize economic and cultural driver of the United States. So I have a deep personal interest, both because I represent this area for a long time in the House, and I love this.
First on the list, Biden's preemptive pardons. Maher, in his usual critical style, questioned both the wisdom and consequences of such decisions, urging Schiff to give a straight answer. Schiff, clearly caught off guard, defended the move as necessary, but couldn't dodge Maher's relentless prodding. Maher's voice sharpened just enough to highlight the weight of the issue. Schiff did his best to keep pace, but he was clearly on the defensive. As the tension mounted, what followed was a fierce back and forth filled with clever jabs and tactical responses. Maher's comedic edge tore through Schiff's reasoning, forcing him to circle back and rethink his justifications. Like a satellite caught in gravitational pull, Schiff found himself repeatedly drawn back into Maher's critiques. At the heart of it all was a demand for transparency and accountability, challenging the legitimacy of unchecked political power. Then came the pivot to California itself, a topic Maher always tackles with pointed enthusiasm. You could feel the temperature rise as he brought up the state's ongoing migration crisis. Look at what's happening, Maher argued. People are leaving California in droves, blaming high taxes and rising living costs as major push factors. He didn't sugarcoat it. Policies some deem progressive, he claimed, are driving people out.
So the FBI came in and arrested the judge. Now, I haven't heard that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think I've ever read arrested a judge. So is this significant?
Well, I think
I'm not going to comment on something I don't know more about than what you've just told me.
You read about it too.
Yeah, I mean, I read about it, but I don't know.
So you don't trust anything either, and you work for the New York Times.
Well, when the New York Times does its full reporting, I will trust that.
Okay, all right. If film and TV productions continue to move out of California due to tax incentives in other states, what might the future look for Los Angeles? Is there a risk of it becoming the next Detroit? Well, there's no need to shit on Detroit in the question. Detroit's a fine city. Detroit.
They should. That should be a signal that we shouldn't have one favored industry or another. We should have a favored state. California should be competitive.
Well,
a great argument for old school republicanism, by the way.
and I certainly concur. We need to be competing for business with the rest of the country, and we need to not be complacent about whether people are going to locate here because of a business climate. We certainly can't expect that. But I think what's driving, and the question was about the film industry, which is why I made my answer about the film industry. But I think a lot of what is driving people out of California is the cost of living is too high.
yeah.
And most particularly, the cost of housing is too high. People can't afford to live here, which is why I think in so many central ways, housing is really key. More housing is key to the affordability problem in California. More housing is key to the homeless problem in California. But you're absolutely right, creating a more welcoming business environment, a more regulatory friendly environment, making sure that the ethos is how do we help you get this done, not how do we put more obstacles in the way. I haven't forgotten about your roof. All of that is important to keeping.
And my pot store.
And right?
And the pot store, the Woods that I own with Woody Harrelson. It's just the biggest problem we had was the government of California.
I imagine your producers are saying, oh God, I can't believe Schiff brought up his roof.
Yeah, I mean, we love it.
Schiff countered by saying the so-called mass exodus was exaggerated and likely a temporary trend, not a systemic failure. But Maher wasn't convinced. To him, California's issues reflect deeper national problems. He questioned whether progressive tax policies were worth losing major industries like Hollywood. While Schiff highlighted the state's achievements, Maher kept steering the conversation back to economic realities. Columnist Brett Stevens added a balanced perspective, suggesting California's struggles mirror global trends. The key theme? The clash between idealistic policies and their real-world impact. Maher pushed the idea that these policies must deliver results, not just promises. His final point was clear. It's time for responsibility, not rhetoric. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder.